Okay. Chapter 3, Solving Quadratics. This is just a real quick problem where you're solving it using the graphing technique. The graphing technique has 3 steps. It's real quick. It's real effective, actually. The problem is it's not as good unless you have a graphing calculator. So if you don't have a graphing calculator, it's really hard to get really accurate answers. And even then, there are approximations at that point. Our first example is number 1, solve 5x minus 7 equals 2 to the power of x. The first step in solving any equation with a graph is to set it equal to 0. All right, so we're going to subtract the 2x from both sides. So I minus the 2x, and when I say 2x, I mean 2 to the power of x, sorry. And this gives us our equation, 5x minus 7 is minus 2 to the power of x is equal to 0. So our first step is to set it to 0. Step number 2. Our second step is to change the 0 into a y. All right, it seems kind of bizarre, but this is going to make a lot more sense when you see the graph. So we're going to take this problem, we're going to say, okay, let's change it so that it's not 5x minus 7 minus 2 to the power of x equals 0, but let's say instead of equaling 0, let's say it was equal to y. So we have y is equal to 5x minus 7 minus 2 to the power of x. And now we're going to graph this thing. So step 2 is to change it to y and graph it. So now we go to Desmos and we pop open the graph. All right, so we're going to say y is equal to 5x, let me double check that, I forgot. Yeah, 5x minus 7, my mistake, 5x minus 7 minus 2 to the power of x, minus 2 to the power of x. So that's our second step. And you'll notice that we got a graph that kind of looks like this. It looks like a parabola. It's not really, it's less symmetrical, right? That's why it's not a parabola, but we get something that looks like that. All right, so now let's go back to this to understand what you're about to do. So step 1, we set it to 0. Step 2, we graphed it, but instead of using 0, we changed it to y. Now this is the key to the problem. You'll notice that we changed the 0 into a y. In other words, we are saying y is equal to 0. Now what we want to do is find out what x is when y is equal to 0. So we take a look at our graph. All right, so we go back to our graph and say, okay, graph, we need to find points where y is equal to 0. Well, there are 2 points. There's this one there. Okay, now when you look at it, you'll notice that it says 2.6961, comma 0. Comma 0 is y is 0. All right, so that's our solution because we changed the 0 equals 0 to a y. So that is what our x is. And our other value is 3, comma 0. That's where y is also equal to 0. So our solution is 26961 and 3. So we can write that down. X equals 2.6961 and x is equal to 3. Just like that. So to recap, step 1, set it to 0. Step 2, change the 0 to a y and graph it. And step 3, find where y is 0. In other words, find the x-intercepts. All right, let's try this one more time with a second example. Let's make it a quadratic this time. So we have 6x is equal to x squared minus 7. All right, so we got to solve this thing. Step 1, set it to 0. Now, how you set it to 0 is up to you. You can either put 0 on the left or 0 on the right. I always find that the easiest way is picking the side with the least amount of stuff. So I'm going to take away that 6x. So we're going to minus 6x, and this gives us 0 is equal to x squared minus 6x minus 7. Step 2, after you set it to 0, now you're just going to set it equal to y and graph it. So we're going to make it y equal. So we're turning the 0 into a y, and we get y is equal to x squared minus 6x minus 7, and we're going to graph that guy. So we go back to Desmos. We're like, hey, Desmos, help us out. We need to graph this thing. Let's zoom this guy out just a bit, back to the 10 by 10. Let's get rid of that, and we're going to type it in. Y is equal to x squared minus 6x, minus 6x, well, not 6y, fat finger problems, minus 7. All right, so step 2 is to graph it. Now look at that. That looks like a symmetrical parabola for us. And now we need to find the x-intercepts because we are trying to find where y is 0. Well, y is 0 there, So negative 1 comma 0, where y is 0. And the second one is there, 7 comma 0, where y is 0. So our x's are negative 1 and 7. We have two solutions. Our two solutions are negative 1, x equals negative 1, and x equals 7. Just like that, we have our solutions. So to recap briefly what we did, number one, the first step, set to 0, set to 0. Second step, number 2, graph as y equals, right? Graph as y equals. Step number 3, find the x-intercepts. Find the x-intercepts. Translation, where y is 0, where y equals 0. And that's it.